Yo, what is up, everyone? I'm Phritzy, and this is me talking to myself. So, the thing I want to talk about to myself or to you is my experience of when my kind of the 3 days, maybe 5 days around the birth of my child. The reason why I want to talk about that is it was a little bit strange, though a lot of people have unique situations with their own pregnancies and going into labor and whatnot. But this is from it's from the dad's perspective, my perspective. And also, this is one of the big reasons why I was in the middle of making videos like every few days, and then all of a sudden I stopped. So, without further ado, let's have a beer. Delicious. Let's get into it. So, the first thing to know about this whole pregnancy with my wife is it was actually going incredibly smooth, like incredibly smooth. She had, a little bit of morning sickness, but nothing crazy. She had a little bit of cravings, but nothing insane. Typical standard stuff, like her back would hurt somewhat, but she was at the point she was going to work. She was planning on going to work up to a week before our kid was going to be born. Actually, probably not even a week. Like, I want to say 4 or 5 days, half a week, give or take. And to know our child was due for November 12th, and he showed up October 17th. So almost 4 weeks early. And so our child actually ended up being considered premature. I can't remember the exact number. I believe if you're 38, you're considered fine. If 40, it's like normal term. But yeah, so it was a Tuesday. So Tuesday, she goes to see her doctor. She's doing some tests and like super standard procedure, like trying to give even more of an idea of how easy it was for her. Our doctor's appointments for her were no more than 5 minutes. It was basically a quick set of questions. How you feeling? You good? Okay, you look great. See ya. Get out of here. We don't want to talk to you because you're not sick. There's no complications. So the Tuesday, I would say she is born October 17th. The Tuesday must have been October 15th. Yes. So the Tuesday of October 15th, she goes to see her doctor, a few tests, she's fine. And her doctor just says, there is a chance that your kid could come early, not because of anything specific with you, but random things can happen, so make sure you're prepared, And then my wife and I discussed that we wanted to do our final prep for our child. Now, we already bought a stroller like months before, the weekend before. Our family members gave us like a bassinet and some other small things. We also had our baby shower about 2 weeks, I think, prior. I would say so. So we had a good amount of stuff, but we didn't have clothes for a newborn yet. And we didn't have like some essentials like burp cloths. We didn't buy diapers yet, things like that. So anyways, we had a nice dinner that evening. We had pho, which was delicious. And we actually joke because we'd go to this pho restaurant probably 2 to 3 times a week, and they knew us, and they were like, oh, look, like they knew obviously she's pregnant, and talking about it and asking about it. And then I also remember us, there's no like payoff for this part of the story. along with the fudge. Just like it, I distinctively remember it anyway in my head. But we stopped by and get a Slurpee. She's the one who asks for us to get a Slurpee, which is funny because I have this tendency, especially in the summertime, I'm just obsessed. I just need to get a Slurpee every single day, and it makes me feel disgusting and sick, but sugar rush or something. So she asks me, like, can we get a Slurpee? And I look at her like, are you serious? Like, and she's like, no, I want a Slurpee. I'm like, okay. And we get that, and I decide I should buy a lottery ticket. And okay, today is going to be our lucky day. Spoiler alert, the lottery ticket was nothing. But I guess we did win the lottery with a child. So we go to bed, and normal, we're fine, we're at peace. I joked that wouldn't it be funny, because we did talk a little bit about how her doctor said that our kid could show up early because that could happen. And I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if he showed up this week and I wouldn't have to work? Because I was planning on taking about 2 weeks off once our kid showed up, which was already scheduled at my workplace. Anyway, my wife wakes up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and she's like tapping me on the shoulder, and it's really, really, really hard to wake me up. Like, you gotta shake me, you gotta smack my face. It's not like, and you might tell me something, and I'll be like, and then I'll go back to sleep. There's times she's asked me for something now with our child. Phil, can you do this? I'll say yes, and then I'll go back to sleep. Kind of useless in that manner. But anyway, she wakes me up and she says, Phil, I think my water broke. Let's just say it was the first time I woke up amazingly easy. It was like I heard water and I was like, and like super tired, not like there, but I'm like, oh, you what? And she's like, I don't know if my water broke, but maybe it did. There's a bunch of water, and I'm like, and all the only thing that's going on in my head, I don't know. I guess I've only ever seen movies on people giving birth. So that scene where like the mother is giving birth in a car and she's screaming, or there's that one movie, I can't remember the name of it, where she's giving birth in a Walmart and like all so crazy. So I'm like, oh my God, we got to get going. But anyways, I'm helping her. We're in the bathroom. I'm like, okay, let me help you with this. Trying to get her to go. We just basically rush out of the house as quickly as possible. And that's great. And I'm like, alert. We're like, let's go. This is 2 a.m. in the morning, by the way. If I didn't mention that, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. I get in the car and I get to the first set of traffic lights and, stopping at the red light. I tell my wife, can you look up the directions to this hospital? Can you, because I don't, I want to just get going. She's like, oh, absolutely. She finds it still at the stoplight. And she's like, okay, I found it. We're good to go. My brain here is good to go. And I hit the gas pedal. So I run the red light. I'm like halfway through the intersection. My wife's just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I have no idea. You said we were good to go. She's like, I said I found the directions. And the funny thing was, there was a vehicle that was beside me that it wasn't a cop vehicle. It was a security vehicle. But it was funny that they saw me out of the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night just run a red light. Anyways, they stayed way, way behind me. Thereafter, they probably thought I was drunk. No, I was just full of adrenaline trying to get my wife to the hospital because I thought she was going to go into full-on labor in the car ride because I'm fucking stupid. Anyway, so she's like, are you okay, Phil? Like, da-da-da, like, I seem fine. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. She's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. Let's just get to the hospital. So I get to the hospital and they let us in and, standard stuff. And they ask us a bunch of questions. Well, I don't know if it's standard stuff. I've never been in a situation where my wife has been about to go into labor. But, here we go. And so they're asking us a bunch of questions. They're like, okay, so you're 4 weeks early. You have the choice. I guess you can choose to somehow, I don't get it. I don't get how it works, but it's because like when the water breaks, it's basically go time. There's like no return, but I guess you can. I guess they figured it out that they can, I don't know, seal up the baby again for another couple weeks, but also you can't guarantee that the baby will be there for another couple weeks. So the water could break or whatever. My wife could go into labor again a few days later. Or we could just go through with this birth. And what it's called inducing the labor is there's a whole bunch of technical terms that kind of flew over my head, and they're kind of, I've forgotten a few of them, so forgive me on my dumbed down version of this. But we chose to for my wife to go into induced labor because I would rather be there for her. I would rather like us be together than me be stuck at work, not even know, because typically my phone is on silent while I'm working because I'm dealing with customers all day. I would rather just be there instead of, again, being at work. And she's like, oh, what do I do? Of course, she could probably call her parents and other things, but, So we start that. So it's now probably 4 or 5 in the morning. And my wife had, last time she ate was, I want to say 7 or 8 the night before. And that's when we had the pho. And then we had a little Slurpee. So the last time we consumed anything was probably no later than 10 p.m. And so they induce her, my wife, and they say, you can't eat any food. And so, okay. But at this point, we think, oh, she could be going into like full on labor and baby could show up in like a couple hours. The way the nurses explain things, it's not going to the baby's not going to just show up immediately. I was a bit cuckoo there, but it could happen within a few hours, but probably, in the next 10 to 16 hours. And I'm like, okay. I now have time to like sort some things out. I'm still a little bit full of adrenaline, but I'm okay. My mom eventually came over and was visiting, and then at another point, her parents came over and was visiting my wife in the hospital, and we were just hanging out in this room. Super comfortable room, by the way. They had this like really nice lazy boy chair that you could lay back on. I managed to go home, shower. My poor wife, she couldn't. She's not too happy about that. I even brought my Nintendo Switch to play with. I was too tired, so I didn't. But it was a great lazy boy to sleep on when other people were in the room. And if I knew that, and there was actually always a nurse in the room too, and I knew that if she went to labor, that they would wake me up. So I wasn't too worried. Anyway, so as the day is going on, it's now like 2-3 p.m. Now it's October 16th, and it's been quite a few hours, and things are progressing, but slowly. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. No big deal. Baby's gonna show up probably this evening, or maybe baby's not gonna show up until like 10 at night. That's fine. So, kind of back and forth, just having lots of conversations with people, discussing what methods of like painkillers we should use for her and all that kind of stuff. And eventually we get to almost like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and still not a lot has progressed. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, there's some progression, but it's really, really tiny. So I guess the doctors, they tried something, um, and I was kind of drifting off in my own sort of world. And my kid, they had this like monitor for our baby's heart, so they could know the state of him, if he's happy or healthy, if they have to go into, like, if there's an emergency, like, oh my goodness, his heart's slowing down, we need to get this baby out. And they were like trying to test some stuff, and all of a sudden, like, there were some blips in his heartbeat, and they were panicking and trying to figure things out. And my wife looked like, and she was in a lot of pain, and my heart was dropping. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to my wife? Is she okay? Oh my God. And it's like a terrible scare. The doctors look scared. Da, 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 da. Turns out they were just doing something to more accurately test the kid's heart rate, our kid's heart rate, and it wasn't working, but it was bothering our kid, and then it caused his heart rate was lowering a bit, and so they stopped. And while they were doing that, it was painful for my wife, which, fair enough. Scares the shit out of me, though, as I'm seeing this, and it's scaring the shit out of her. Anyway, so we wait even longer, and she's going in and out. My wife is falling in and out of sleep. She's having these crazy dreams, about our kid and all this stuff. And they're getting her to turn this way and that way to try to get things moving along. And they give her, I believe it's what it's called, an epidural, which is it's a painkiller that you put, if you're not aware, it's like a painkiller that you put in the person's spine, and you don't feel anything, you just feel pressure, but the painkiller doesn't hit the child. So what I mean is, like, like if you eat something or you take something, your child feels that. That's why you need to not drink. I'm sure there's other reasons for that, but basically the way the painkiller is given, it doesn't affect the child at all. So, okay, she's taking that, and it seems to not work. Like, she gets it, and it's like, okay, but then, like, her left side, she feels pressure and no pain, but her right side hurts, and it hurts a lot. And so she tells them, and they're trying to figure it out. So they give it to her again, and then the next time it's on the right side. So now her right side is like numb and just pressure, but the left side is in pain. I have no idea how this thing works, but holy crap. And they're trying to figure this out, and they're like, this like never happens. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want my wife to go through all this crazy pain. And I remember the doctor said that he is going to try an old school method, which I guess helped for a little bit, but wasn't great. Anyway, so time keeps going on, and now we are on October 17th, and it is like probably 6:15, 6:30 in the morning, and the doctors come in. They've been checking our kid's heart rate, and ever since they tried that method of getting a more accurate heart rate, our boy, his heart rate just hasn't been as steady as it was before. So they're getting worried about that, and the process of the labor isn't going as well as they were hoping. I'm trying to leave out a lot of details too, I don't know, for, I guess, just some details don't need to be said, I guess. Maybe just for my wife's sake. But basically, baby wasn't ready to pop out. And so they come to us, and they're like, okay, well, we're worried about your kid. His heart rate isn't as great as it was before. The labor is still not as far as we need it. We're seriously suggesting and highly recommend an emergency C-section. And my wife, remember, She still hasn't had food since October 15th on the Tuesday. This is now the Thursday morning. No food, no nothing, just water and a lot of pain. And she also really wants her son to come out and be alive and be healthy and great. So she's just like, get the baby out. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So they prep us and they prep her, and then they allow me to go into the room. And things seem fine, though it's really scary. Actually, no, the things didn't seem fine. As I'm getting that information, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to get a C-section. Oh my God, they're going to cut her open. Da, 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 da. All these things are rushing through my head. Like anything could go wrong. This is like the most insane thing. I'm messaging people. They're like, she'll be fine. This happens. A lot of women get this. No big deal. Your kid will be there, happy and healthy. Just chill, enjoy the moment. Nah. I mean, there was times to enjoy, for sure. I have my child. But it was like the scariest 15, 20 minutes. No, it was the most crazy emotional roller coaster I've ever had in my life. So I get the scrubs on, I'm all prepped, I go in, I see my wife, she's already on the operating table, there's a curtain that I stand behind, and I'm basically, her head sticking out from this curtain, and so she can hold my hands, and I can like see her face, and we can talk. And then they get started, and she feels it. Not the pressure, she feels them cutting, and she's like, like this hurts. And I think he's called the anesthesiologist. I think I can't pronounce that right. I don't know. Somebody correct me. But the person in charge of like all the painkillers and all the administering her with whatever drug she needs to help her get through this. And he's like, the epidural is still not working. Like she can still feel it. Like, okay, what do we do? Well, I guess this is my interpretation of how he's sorting this out. But he's like, okay, so it seems like this isn't working. I think I might actually give her ketamine. Now, if you don't know what ketamine is, I've only ever heard of the word ketamine in terms of it being a street drug. I remember, I think the term's called like Special K, but it's a hardcore drug. Like you could list it along with like heroin or something. So I'm like, oh my God, they're giving my wife this hardcore drug and she's in pain. And they're going in, they're cutting away, they have to pull, like, I don't know. I really don't want to go into too much detail, I guess, but just imagine where a baby is placed and the organs and all that other stuff that they have to move to get the baby out, and they're doing that. And again, my wife is still feeling everything, and my wife she's so quiet sometimes. She's asking me things, I'm like, what, huh? Also, I'm probably going deaf, but she's such a quiet person. And then all of a sudden I hear her scream so loud. Like I've never heard her scream that much. My heart's racing. I'm like, oh my God, my wife's in so much pain. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And the anesthesiologist is just like, okay, we're going to give her ketamine. And I'm like, oh my God. I was warned earlier that don't be super scared when the baby comes out. If it's a C-section and you don't hear a noise, it typically takes, up to 30 seconds to a minute. I think I'm kind of recalling this, but like you're not necessarily going to hear a cry immediately. So the painkiller's starting to come in, but it's not fully for my wife. And I hear the surgeon saying, okay, we got the baby, da 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 da. And I hear nothing, but it's like, okay, we're calm. We don't need to hear the cry. That's perfectly normal. Because I'm behind a curtain. I don't see any of this. And, I swear it's like, it's probably only been like 5 or 10 seconds. But it's like, to me, it's like 2 minutes have gone by. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, my kid is not like, what. And then I hear the cry. And I'm like, okay. And they show me my son, and I'm like, hey, wow, that's so great. I'm like in shock. I'm like, whoa, you're like this new person, dude, man, like looking at me. His eyes are wide open, which is funny because his eyes were wide open the entire time we were in the surgery room, and after that his eyes were closed for the next 2.5-3 weeks. But his eyes were wide open. I got to see this full view of his face. They bring him over to this table where they weigh him and all this stuff, and they bring me over. They're like, you want to hold him, you want to take pictures. They were actually, the doctors and nurses were all really great about that. Like the anesthesiologist, he was fantastic. He's like, okay, you're just gonna hold him here. Let me take your camera. I'll take some really nice pictures. Like, I don't know. I think he had a real sense of pride there. But he obviously was enjoying his job, so I was really thankful for that. And so I was holding my child, and there was little pictures taken, and I was like, oh, what about my wife? And I turn around, and so kind of lay out this room, like if you think of it as a square. My wife is on the right side with the surgeries going on, and I was in the back right where her head was and the curtain. Now, where they put my child was on the other side, so on the top left part, so on the other side of the room. Now, when I went over to see my son, I didn't think about the fact that they were just operating on my wife. So I'm holding my son. I turn to the right, and I got this full glimpse of my wife, and I swear to God, I almost fainted, which is scary because I'm holding this newborn child because her organs are still out of her body. Like, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Quickly turn the other way. I'm like, stare at my son. Okay, he's good. We're good. We're going to turn to the left, and we're going to slowly walk ourselves around to the back. And then I go to my wife, and the ketamine actually knocks her out. So she was actually, unfortunately, asleep for about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. And I just hung there, and I was talking to my son. I was telling him he has to always take care of his mom, and that we love him and all that great stuff. And she eventually wakes up, and she was like, it was like she heard us have a conversation, but she was just out. I guess that's what that drug does to you. But anyways, that was there was like this point of, oh my God, I felt that fear of, oh my God, my wife's gonna die. Oh my God, my child's not gonna make it. All mixed in with the same time. Such joy of holding my child and being with my wife at the same time, and everybody being okay. So that was a roller coaster. That was like a 3-day roller coaster, and then it just kept going because then when you have a C-section, you have to stick around at the hospital for a minimum of 48 hours. Because our child was premature, it had to be even longer, because when a child is premature, there are certain things that get developed with the body, like them being able to regulate their internal temperature. At 36 weeks, they can't do that. Them being able to maintain their blood sugar levels. Again, at 36 weeks, they can't do that. So they had to... had to test them out. They had to poke the bottom of his foot for a blood test. They had to check his temperature. And the way the blood sugar test goes is it's every hour for the first 3 times, and then it's every 2 hours, and then it stretches out to every 4 hours for a total of 36 hours. Our boy failed the test at the 36-hour mark. So we ended up being at the hospital another 5 days. So, or a few more days. So in total, after the birth, we were there for 5 days. So we were there for basically a week, a day and a half shy of it. We got there the Tuesday or Wednesday. So maybe it was actually 2.5 days short. We got there at the Wednesday at 2 a.m. and left at noon on Sunday. That was a wild experience, and neither of us got any sleep. No preparation at all. We were so chill about how easy things were going that we had the carpet kind of ripped from underneath us, and we're like, here's a huge responsibility. Have fun. And every time we go past this one 7-Eleven, we'd always think about this one Slurpee that we had, and that was what caused their baby to show up. Of course, that's not true, but it's just like, certain things connect, and it's like every time we go past, it's like, that was the place. And every time we go past this pho restaurant, we're like, this was the thing that triggered it, and it wasn't. Who knows what it was? But it apparently, which is actually kind of a scary fact, but I later on researched, what causes premature babies, and a lot of it is things to do with abuse or alcohol abuse or certain kind of sicknesses or whatever. So every time I left the room to, say, use the bathroom or go eat some food, nurses would quietly ask my wife if I was abusive in any way. And she'd be like, of course not. But that was an interesting thing. I wasn't offended by it, but it was like, whoa, that kind of, made me step back a second. I was like, okay, well, I'm glad they're doing their due diligence in that matter. But, it was so much. I remember also on the Wednesday morning at this point, and messaging my boss saying, yeah, I'm not coming to work for the next week and a bit, so I'll see ya. And I didn't feel any guilt there, but I was so naive. I thought I could make more of these YouTube videos. I thought, I'm gonna kind of slow down a little bit as we get to our due date, November 12th. I'm gonna tell everybody that I'm gonna take a couple weeks off, and then I'll kind of slowly get back into things. And instead, I disappeared. I did not have any energy. I didn't even look at the computer. I was just so exhausted, and then I had to go back to work, and that took a lot of energy. And boy, oh boy, the first 2 months of a newborn, though I loved my son the whole way, I don't want to relive those first 2 months. No way, no way, no way, no way. Them waking up every couple of hours, so you're not getting any rest. Them not even being able to hold their head, so they're so dependent on you. I'm not one to judge. It's more me saying this because I don't get it. Because I especially mothers, they'll look. They were looking at her son when he's like the first 2 months. They're like, oh, I wish my children were like that age again. Da 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 da. And now I'm holding my son at almost 6 months now, where he's rolling over, he's almost at crawling, he's definitely holding his own body weight in a big way. He's much better at communicating, he's sleeping most of the night. And I'm like, no way do I want to relive that. The stress, like, me and my wife are good, like, we are tight, but my God, we were at each other's throats. And because we thought we were okay, because we thought we had a few more weeks, we weren't prepped, so we have been exhausted all the way up to this point. And even as our child has gotten more independent, we haven't had an opportunity to slow down and like regroup. Which brings us to this whole coronavirus thing where we're all stuck at home, and I'm so fucking happy. I get to, and my wife is too, and my kid is giggling and having a good time too. But I get the opportunity to give my wife some relief by spending a lot of time with my son. Because normally when I was at work, I was so exhausted from work that it was so hard to like, it's not like I didn't take him. I would, but I didn't have the chance to really bond with my son. I just, it's so much easier now. Like, I'll wake up and she'll be like, hey, you want to take him? Like, sure. And I'll take him for the entire morning. She goes back to sleep, and, you know, like, I'll have him playing around. He's crying. My wife will get up. Oh, get him. I'm like, no, I got him. And I carry him around, and we're giggling and we're playing around. And it's like our relationship is getting super tight again. Not that it was like getting rocky, but it was like we were on edge with each other. And I'm getting a lot of quality time with my son. And it's just like, oh man, I'm so thankful. But anyways, that's the story of why I disappeared. Now I'm here because of the coronavirus. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you all stay healthy. And I hope you all take the opportunity to spend time with your loved ones at home. Have a great day. Peace.